The now Baltic states, which parted ways with Russia during the Soviet Union dissolution, continued to follow the Moscow Patriarchate only until Russia invaded Kyiv, as they started viewing their alliance as a threat to their national security. Hello and welcome to TFI Global, the foreign affairs and geopolitical analysis arm of the TFI Media Group. I'm your host Vedika. Let's begin. The Russian Orthodox Church, alternatively legally known as the Moscow Patriarchate, is the largest anti-cephalous Eastern Orthodox Christian church. It has 194 dioceses inside Russia. The primate of the ROC is the Patriarch of Moscow and all Russia. Currently, the ROC asserts sole jurisdiction over all Eastern Orthodox Christians living in the former Soviet Union member states, with the exception of Georgia, regardless of their ancestry. But Moscow's recent actions have induced a repelling effect within the former Soviet Union members, especially the Baltics. From displaying Russian artworks in museums to following Russian culture and language, all is being viewed as a community stability threat in these nations. Hence, they are now demanding a breakaway from the Russian Orthodox Church, from Lithuania to Latvia, and now Estonia. Every nation has demanded the separation of the Orthodox churches from the Moscow Patriarchate. The Lithuanian Prime Minister requested the separation of the Lithuanian Orthodox Church from the Moscow Patriarchate to the Patriarch of Constantinople on May 18, 2022. The Latvian Saeima then passed a bill on the independence of the Latvian Orthodox Church on September 8. Additionally, on October 12, the Estonian government gave the head of the Estonian Orthodox Church instructions to denounce both Patriarch Kirill's comments on the fighting in Ukraine and Russia's invasion of that country. The public and the administration have been venting out their frustrations and are fighting Russian culture in most of the EU nations. But in Estonia, things seem to stay in place. Alar Karis, the president of Estonia, disagrees with recent anti-Russian statements made by Ukraine and the neighbors of the Baltic nation, saying there is no need to fight the Russian language. His remarks follow the Tallinn government's adoption of language standards for education aimed at the nation's 1/4 of residents who speak Russian at home. Multiple languages is a good thing until they put chips in our head and we can understand others automatically, Karis told the ETV broadcaster in an interview recorded on December 29. Language is a tool, he said. I see no reason to fight against languages. Russian itself is a language of culture, and Russian, unfortunately, you need to start learning earlier than other languages, because it has a different alphabet and it is more difficult to master. At least that's what the teachers say. In light of the turmoil in Ukraine, officials in Kyiv had just made a demand for a boycott of Russian language and culture when he made his remarks. Simonas Kairys, the cultural minister of neighboring Lithuania, has argued that an outright ban on Russian culture would be authoritarian and has suggested a mental quarantine as an alternative. Karis claimed he knew ethnic Russians who now refuse to speak Russian due to the conflict in Ukraine, but describing this as a passing phenomena. You shouldn't blame the language for anything, Karis added. Karis addressed the language issue in part because of Estonia's campaign to exclude Russian from school settings. By 2024, all kindergartens and elementary schools will solely offer teaching in Estonian, thanks to a plan approved by the Education Ministry on December 17th. The national language proficiency of all instructors will be a condition for employment. Karis argues the wiping of Russian culture won't do any good, which indeed is true. Now here's a moment of truth. The West is exposed to its naivety about Russia, its history, its culture and motives. The West tried its best to first wipe euros from Russian coffers by imposing a spate of sanctions, and now it wants Russia to lose its standing as an international colossus and the fig leaf of great culture. Russia is a champion against fascism and for the rights of former colonies, and the West wants to see all that blowing away. But Russian culture has come a long way and it cannot be easily wiped off.